Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to MindShifters Radio with your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife Jeanie. Michael and Jeanie share with you the wisdom of the ancient Aramaic internal process of forgiveness. They offer tools and support 5 days a week from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. They will support you in building a solid foundation within yourself to live in pure love. In Aramaic, Rakhma. Michael is the author of Why Is This Happening to Me Again? For more information on Michael and Jeanie, please visit www.whyagain.com. And now your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael and Jeanie Ryce.
And the truth that is rooted within me. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are in the country, and welcome to MindShifters Radio. The call-in number is 646-200-4169, and press 1 to get in queue to speak. We would love to hear your questions or comments. Michael, good morning.
Good morning, dear heart. How are you this morning?
Awesome.
Cool. Do we have anything to deal with from the chat room or anybody with a hand up online? I understand Dr. Tim is there. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
We appreciate the fact that you... Go ahead, Tim.
This is going to be your last day in Oregon?
This is our last day in Oregon, yes. At 4:30 in the morning, we're at the airport getting ready to fly to Florida so that we can be in Hallandale Beach keynoting a medical conference, alternative medical conference in Hallandale, Florida at the Regency Resort.
Wonderful.
So we'll be on the road. Tonight's our last workshop, and tonight we're doing Laws of Living at Unity in Medford.
Wonderful.
And I appreciate the fact that tomorrow you're going to be doing the show. David's going to be on the road traveling, and we're going to be flying. So we're delighted that you'll be there and be willing to handle that. I talked to St. Jane, and she said she will definitely be on to support you in that, and so it ought to be fun.
Wonderful. Looking forward to it.
As am I.
We had the.
So do you have anything on your mind today?
Well, just that we had our MindShifters group last night, another wonderful gathering of 9 people, and we watched the first hour of Empowered to Heal. And coming on the heels of the Codependent to Interdependence workshop or lecture, everybody was taking a deep breath and thinking, wow, this is a kindler, gentler lecture. So they were very much into it and relaxed and thoroughly enjoyed it. So we had 2 new people there, so it was a good intro to the work for them.
And what was the workshop you'd done last week?
Codependence to Interdependence, the second part of it.
Oh.
And the new one. So we had somebody there who was there for the first time, and there's an old cassette commercial for Maxell cassettes where the guy is sitting in the chair and his hair and his scarf are blown away by the speakers. That's pretty much what this guy looked like. Completely blown away by the intensity of the material because it was his very first introduction to the work.
Yeah, codependence to interdependence is not the easiest first bite of this work to take, that's for sure. I know that every time I teach it, and I'm actually in the process, out of the series that we did, I'm kind of reorganizing things, and it's morphing again into still another level of that intensity. So it's a good thing.
It is a good thing.
When we start to, the ancient teachings talk about how, for a lack of knowledge, we've been destroyed. And, if we don't know how something works, it's really hard to get it to work. I don't care what it is. I know that we were at someone's house recently with these newfangled light switches. And I'll tell you, we spent so much time fooling around with these silly switches. But, of course, nothing wrong with the switches. They're simple ABC if you know how they work. And it's just like the human mind and human relationship and family systems and codependence or independence. If you know how it works, it's pretty easy to move through. But when you don't, and so to me, that the kindest part of that lecture is that we get to see, or that presentation, is that we get to see exactly how this device works and exactly how to crack its codes and move through to the other side. Where what most people do, because they don't have a clue how it works, is they just sit around and want to worship somebody else who cracked the code and then hope that they'll come and crack it for them, which nobody can crack it for you. Somebody can show you how to crack it, but each one of us has to crack our own. Nobody else can do it for us. That's the boon and the bane of having choice, because once you make a choice, it's yours. There is nobody that's going to come in and interrupt and interfere with your choice or take it away from you. And once you've made that choice, until you're willing to uncover it and change it, you can't just say to somebody else, well, come in and fix it for me. And a lot of people are sitting around waiting for someone who knew exactly how to do the repair work on this device, and they're saying, well, just come and fix it for me. And it's like, no, it's a skill we each have to develop, and, that's what the tools are about.
Well, for years before I knew you, one of my favorite stories to try and introduce people to the purpose of therapy was the Sultan who lived in a tent until he struck oil, and he instantly had billions of dollars, and he wanted his 25-year-old son to get a college education in the U.S., so he sent him over here, and he knew nothing about anything mechanical. So he ended up with a sports car with Daddy's money, and he drove it until it stopped. And then he insisted that they take it to the repair shop and do exactly what he told them to do. And he walked around the car, and he said, well, it's red now, let's paint it black. And they questioned him, and he said, you do not question the Sultan's son. And so they painted it black, and he got in and turned the key, and it didn't start. So he walked around, and he said, well, put 2 new doors on the car. And they knew better than to question him after the first blow-up, so they put 2 new doors on the car. He got in, turned the key, nothing happened. He walked around the front. He saw this line around the front. He said, what's that line? And they said, that's the hood. Well, what's in there? Oh, that's the engine. So he opened it up and looked in there, and he said, what are these things? Those are your fuel injectors. Well, put new fuel injectors on it. So they did. He got in, turned the key, nothing happened. He walked around the other side of the car, and he saw this smaller little line, and he said, what's that for? They said, that's where you put the gas. So he said, well, put some gas in it. And they put some gas in. He got in the car, turned the key, and it started right up. And the Sultan's son said, see, I know what I'm doing. It just needed, a new paint job and 2 new doors and some of them injection thingies and some gas. And I tell my patients, I don't want you to be like that. I want you to understand how the system works before you start making changes.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's definitely key in the process. But, that old game of blockage of truth, and I don't want to take input. I don't listen because I have to know it all is definitely a tough place to live from. And so tools, we're here to share tools, and today is day 24 of our celebration. What are we celebrating? If you're new to the work, we are celebrating Memorial Day for the 24th time in a row. Only we're not doing what's become kind of the classic celebration. We got a day off, we get to go to the beach, we get to get drunk, we get to, cook on the grill. What an awesome holiday. Well, excuse me, but, Memorial Day isn't about playing and having fun. Memorial Day is about remembering, and it's about healing if we choose to truly honor those who we say Memorial Day is about remembering. And, of course, who are remembering the people who have been forced to murder, to be murdered, to be wounded, to wound, to be emotionally scarred and emotionally scar, and bring those scars home to families, to children, to wives, to parents, to neighbors, to co-workers. And what we're inviting everyone to do to celebrate Memorial Day once again with us, Day 24, is to pick one issue in your life today where you have some hostility and fear and do some forgiveness work around it. And as we individually and collectively remove hostility and fear, the root cause of all war, then we're going to disappear war from the planet. And to me, that's truly a way to honor these people who are veterans of this insanity called war. And so we invite you to pick one issue, one situation that you're willing to shift and change today. And if you're not familiar with the forgiveness process that we're speaking of, please go to the website, www.whyagain.com. On the right-hand side, you'll see a link that says, actually 3 links in a row. The 3 top links are all about doing the worksheet process. The first one is chapter 24 from my book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again?, on how the forgiveness process works and what it's about. And the second link is a 7-step reality management worksheet. It is the basic form of the forgiveness process from the Aramaic. The third one is a link to a radio show that goes back to February, where a young lady named Pamela was brave enough to say, I'll go on the show with you and be guided through a worksheet. And so you can download these 3 things and start to work with forgiveness. And that is the act of removing from your physiology any form of hostility or fear that darkens and clouds your perception. And we offer that. As we do that individually and collectively, we put an end to war. Standing around admiring or hoping that someone who's done that work can fix it for you isn't going to fix it for you. And all the beliefs in the world aren't going to fix it for you. When you put the pen to the paper and you do your work, it's going to change those dynamics. You were given free will. Nobody's going to change what you aren't willing to change yourself. And, of course, the dilemma in changing the dynamics of insanity inside the human being is that most of us are in denial of our insanity. When we're in hostility or fear, we've always got somebody else to blame. And so in blaming someone else, we dissociate from the part of us that's in need of healing. And as we dissociate from the part of us in need of healing, we can't change that part. The Aramaic forgiveness process shows you precisely how to go in and come back into direct relationship with any part of your mind that you've denied and dissociated from and change the dynamics that are hidden there. So we invite you to join us in our celebration, Day 24, Memorial Day. Jeanie, any callers? Any conversation in the chat room? Well, folks, our phone number is 646-200-4169. If you have any questions about the Aramaic process of forgiveness or any of the tools that we teach to how to change the dynamics of what's happening inside of you, we would be absolutely delighted to hear from you and help you to refine your understanding and your skills and perhaps receive some refining and new understanding ourselves. And so we're here to offer and to receive that support. We're delighted that you're tapped in with the show, and we're moving in the direction of healing the internal dynamics of hostility and fear rather than living out of the traditions. You know, if you've ever seen that movie Tradition, once tradition is established in physiology, tradition tends to carry on. And if the tradition, the good old family feeling is, well, what we do is when the stress is up and the chips are down, we find somebody to blame, we find somebody to make wrong, we find somebody to give our daily dose of disapproval to, we find somebody to serve up our hostility to, we find somebody to criticize, to condemn. If that's the good old family feeling, if that's your tradition, then you have the right to the tradition of your generations. There's a man named Yeshua who called those traditions based in hostility or fear living in Egypt. And to come out of Egypt, the call is to come out of captivity to the good old family feeling and the hostility of fear. It wasn't about a physical country. It was about a state of captivity. And if we are in captivity to judgment, condemnation, war, violence, finding somebody else to blame, then, and we never go into our own dissociated mind to change those dynamics, we will continue in those dynamics. And as we continue, we'll totally ignore the teachings of the one that we say we want to follow. If you go back to the man named Yeshua, who understood exactly how to clean up this dissociated mind, he speaks about a quote from way back in Isaiah. And he talks about, you come near to me with your lips, but your hearts are far from me. The word heart in Aramaic, we had not been able to translate until just the last few decades of the Western world. And now we know that he was talking about the unconscious or the dissociated mind. So if in your words you're talking about love and, you're at church every week and you listen to the gossip and the natter and the things that go on in the back room, your words may be about love, but your heart, the content of your traditions, is far, far from that. And so when people sit around and wait for somebody to leave the room so they can talk about them, that's anything but a loving behavior, though we may proclaim that we stand in the first law of love, the creator, neighbor, and self. And so, and that doesn't mean anybody's bad or wrong. It's not a guilt trip. There's nothing about any of that. It just means that we're stuck in these traditions, and we need to wake up to them and to start to change them. And when you look at the writings of the great ones, they talked about this common trap of the dissociated, or what we'll call the non-being mind. There's an interesting quote from Gandhi, who, he impacted the country of India in just such awesome ways. But back in 1948, here's what he said. He said, the Indian people will follow me in life, worship me in death, but will not make my cause their cause. If you go back to Isaiah, and I'm just talking about a principle here, that if we're trapped in tradition, if we're trapped in the good old family feeling, this is how it works. So let's go back. So we've got Gandhi 50 years ago speaking about it. Now let's go all the way back to Isaiah, 8th century BC, 2,800 years ago. And he speaks about this mindset of the unreformed reformer. And he declared how deep a problem it was. If you look at what Isaiah was calling for, what he said was, you need to have a simple trust and belief in love. Now, when people say, I've never experienced love, go hold a newborn child and you will understand what love is. Now, your work is to return to that state of love, to return to who you are. Once you realize that can be done, if you're in captivity to your rage, your grief, or your pain, everywhere you look, you seem to see all kinds of reasons for rage, grief, fear, and pain. Guess what? Rage, grief, fear, and pain are 100% optional. You can, should you choose to do so, crack the code of your own dissociated mind, remove from your heart all of the words, all of the thoughts, all of the feelings that have you looking around at a seemingly threatening world out there, or thinking you're looking around at a threatening world out there, when in fact the threat's all inside of you. And as the threat is inside of you, you draw somebody in to resonate, to play that out with you. And so if you're in captivity to some form of hostility or fear, if you think that's the only option, it's because that's what's stored in your associated mind. And that's called captivity, being trapped in that. And what happens is people who are in this tradition, this dissociated mind, are enamored by the belief in war, violence, guilt, shame, fear, and not having the eyes to see or the ears to hear, they're in captivity to that. It was no different today than it was 2,800 years ago when Isaiah talked about it. So 2,000 years ago, this man Yeshua reaffirmed the problem that existed by quoting Isaiah. And what exactly did Isaiah say? He says, well, Isaiah prophesied, or what did Yeshua say? Well, as Isaiah prophesied of you hypocrites, as it is written, this people honoreth me with their lips, but their hearts, that is their unconscious, the dissociated mind, the tradition, is far from me. Do you support or do any form of violence or war, verbal, emotional, funding people to kill people, or picking up guns to kill people, or killing people with your tongue? Do you do that while you proclaim a belief in the man named Yeshua? Well, you have a problem. Yeshua's just said that that's called hypocrisy. Now, hypocrisy is not a terrible thing if you're doing your work. Actually, it's a necessary thing. We're all hypocrites. You watch my life too closely, I'm a hypocrite. What does that mean? Well, my work is alive. I get to speak a step ahead of myself. I can't keep up with everything that I teach. I try. I work toward it. But, if you're keeping up with everything you teach, there's a great line by Zig Ziglar. He says, if you're ripe, you rot. If you've got a teaching that's dead, been dead for a long time, you may find that most people are living that teaching. But if you've got a teaching that's really alive, cutting edge, and moving forward, it's always a step ahead of you. And it takes time to bring yourself up to speed to that which is a step ahead of you. So we're all hypocrites. But I'm talking about the type of hypocrite that doesn't put a finger to the plow of their own work, that doesn't choose to do one bit of work inside themselves, but live in one language, but proclaim belief in another. And so this is the process of healing, and I offer to anybody that's locked into this dissociated state where it seems like there's no other option but hostility or fear. Absolutely all hostility and fear can be removed from your experience. And so if you go back and read, it's really pretty interesting to read that book of Isaiah, because we see people who create all kinds of doctrines and dogmas for you to believe in. And his invitation is really simple. He just says, return to trust and love. Trust, love, simplicity, and truth. He doesn't do some big dogmatic journey into theology. His invitation is simple. And Yeshua respects him enough that Yeshua quotes him on this point. His invitation is return to love, simplicity, and trust. Not believe somebody's stories about their interpretation of what was meant. Simply return to love, simplicity, and truth. And that's our invitation to you. If you have a physiological system that holds any form of hostility or fear, then there's somebody that shows up in your life, probably pretty regularly, that can kick you right square in the limitation. They can show you where your drama and your trauma is. If you've had fear and terror instilled in your mind around a particular idea, and somebody threatens that idea, then fear and terror is going to come up. Now, if you're in projection, you'll point the finger at the person who brings it up, and you'll go, look what you've done to me. And what you're saying when you do that is you're dissociated from your fear and terror, and you trust your fear and terror more than you trust the active presence of love. And so there's always, with this non-being mind, the focus in the outer world, the focus in believing that the problem is outside of us. And fortunately, the problem is not outside of you. The problem is always inside of you. And that's a really good thing to know, because when you know that, you've always got the solution at hand. There's a really cool quote that comes from a fellow named Hugh Prather, and his book is called There Is a Place. And here's what he says. At any given time, there's still a number of ways I have not forgiven. Now, forgiveness, if you have completed forgiveness within yourself, anyone could show up saying or doing anything. They could show up doing something so totally disagreeable, so totally egregious that everybody in the world would agree that's terrible. But if you've actually cleaned up your database, you will maintain a direct connection to your human life love, instead of steep yourself in your hostility or fear, pointing it at someone else. So Hugh goes on to say, simultaneously with my readiness to heal, there appears in my life a person who does something I don't like. And what they do symbolizes my particular fault. So if I have been programmed with hostility around a given idea, what he's saying is somebody's going to show up that's going to express that idea. And instead of staying connected to what I say is my source, I go with the graven image in my mind that comes from my hostility of, look what you've done to me. And refusing to be responsible for my hostility and go back to relationship with love, I want them to change. So what Hughes says, and it's really pretty cool the way he puts it together, he says, it is necessary that I first look at that person in a judgmental way, no matter how brief my misperception may be. So we are going to do that. We are going to look at each other because if there's anything unlike love within our minds, then our mind's going to serve up, whatever that is, when the circumstances are right. So no matter how brief, Hughes says, this misperception may be, otherwise I would not recognize that I am refusing the means whereby I might see my own innocence. Another's fault is certainly the most valuable gift to me. It is a mirror which allows me to choose another reflection. But thank you, Hugh Prather. I think that's an awesome piece of information for us to get to see. And this game of pretending something outside of us can make us feel anything, and thereby refusing to change the tradition of terror and fear, to hear Isaiah and, of course, Yeshua repeat the same thing. Trust, love, simplicity, and truth. You notice Isaiah didn't say, trust the dogma made up by somebody in the 14th, 17th, or 19th century. He says trust, love, trust, simplicity, trust, truth. It's an awesome, simple thing. But if the tradition is I complicated and I live in my fears and my condemnation of others who don't think like I do, who won't go along with me, then I have work to do. It's awesome. It's a great game. It's a fun game. Jeanie, any callers, any comments, questions in the chat room? Is that making sense to folks? Any thoughts for you? No? Is Sam on with us today? No. Oh. Well, Sam, I hope all's well in your world. And so, Tim, any thoughts on that little piece of information?
Well, I like hearing it from that perspective. Every little different angle I get is a help. I was thinking when you asked me to do the program tomorrow that the theme for me for tomorrow would be that it's all an inside job, because that's one of the biggest hurdles for me in trying to introduce this work to people, whether it's in my practice or in the group, is to get people to realize that I'm creating my experience of reality. It's not that I'm creating everything in actuality, but I am creating my experience of it.
Exactly. And in a sense, a great contributor to that experience is what the generations have contributed, and we unconsciously allow those traditions to come right in as though they're present moment experiences, which of course they're not.
Yeah, and we learn to identify with what our internal experience is, and that includes all of that energetic inheritance, and we don't separate that from ourselves.
Right, exactly. Cool. Well, it ought to be a good show. I wish I would have been able to tap into it and listen. And the just around this whole topic, the trickster. In the ancient cultures, all the native cultures have some sort of a trickster. Like in the deck of cards, there's the Joker, and in this Joker, this trickster always turns things around. And when we look at any teaching that has any form of hostility or fear in it, proclaiming to be about love, we've got the trickster involved. And it structures us, it programs our mind with those hostilities and fears, and as we get locked into those hostilities and fears, we are stuck. And we think there's a reason to point hostility at someone. And we think the reason's outside of us. We think there's a reason to condemn someone. We think there's a reason to separate from someone. After all, look what's wrong with them. And you know what? That person may be absolutely, totally, all wet, as wrong can be. But you know what? They're wrong. It's got nothing to do with the fact that here I am back in my hostility. My mind has now tricked me that I'm going to give up my relationship with love, with God, because this person's wrong. And it's just one more trick of this non-being mind. And, you know, again, let's go back to Isaiah, because this Aramaic language is a physics language. It is not a theological language. He's telling us how it works. These wisdom keepers that spoke Aramaic, Isaiah, like Yeshua, taught, spoke in Aramaic. And when he gives us this invitation, it's very much the same invitation that Yeshua offers. First law, love, stay with your human life. If you don't know what a human life is, hold a newborn, you'll know exactly what it is. Maintain and stay with your human life no matter what anybody does. And that includes the Creator, neighbor, and self. And so when Isaiah says, do this, he's not speaking about a religious principle, and he is saying, on a practical note, that if we could resolve the rejection of love for all the tricks our mind gives us, for putting it away, for pushing it away from us, for cutting off direct connection to the active presence of love and cutting off our human lives, he says the result would be, quote, the removal of national hatred, the overcoming of sorrow, and of death. Man, if we could just quit sacrificing our children's lives to the altar of dogma and violence and actually understand this key being living in the active presence of love. I mean, look at how powerful that statement is. It would be the removal of national hatred, the overcoming of sorrow, and of death. These folks were really connected and really close to the source, folks. And they've developed a body of work for achieving this result. But the trickster, the non-being mind with all its hostilities and fears, thinks it knows better and thinks that it can stay in its hostility and fear while maintaining some semblance of relationship with love. And, you know, I mean, it's just, on its face, it's a total, complete joke. It's simply an impossibility. You can't be in hostility or fear and say you believe anything about the teachings of a man named Yeshua. Because to do that, you just violated the first law of being. Now that you've given up your human life, any sort of insanity can ensue. And we're here to support each of us, to learn ourselves and to support each of us in being able to change that dynamic. Any questions, thoughts there? Tim?
Michael?
Yes, sir.
You mentioned that you had a visit with another wonderful teacher, Guy Finley, and one of the things he's likes to say in one of his talks is, my anger and pain is the thing I use to prove to me that I'm right and somebody else is wrong. The more I'm in the situation,
to point it at them.
Yeah, the more I'm in the situation, the more angry I get, the more that proves to me I'm right and they're wrong. The more I'm hurting based on what I think they've done to me, the more that proves to me that I'm right and they're wrong.
Yes.
And this is the mind divided against itself.
Yes.
And he says,
and whoever I'm pointing my anger at is the one that I think should come in and change my mind, which is, of course, quite a joke.
Right. And he says, he says, your pain doesn't prove that you're right. Your pain only proves that you don't know what rightness is. It's your mind divided against itself that first creates the situation that you then dislike, and then it proves to you that you didn't create it by showing you how much you hate it.
Exactly. Yep, it's a good way to say it. Awesome.
Did Jeanie have a question from the chat room?
Oh, okay. She had a caller, but they disappeared, so maybe they'll call back in.
Well, I really like getting it from all of the different angles, and one of the things that you talk about the dissociated mind, and Guy Finley talks about the mind divided against itself, and other people talk about the ego versus the true self. And when you found something that works, it's all the same stuff. And it doesn't really matter what words you use for it, as long as it helps you remove what's not love from your system and get you into the space of experiencing your source's love. Then we're celebrating Memorial Day.
I'm in absolute agreement with that one. And, again, one of the games, and it happens in virtually every venue, whether it's business, whether it's education, whether it's theology, is that the non-being mind introduces all kinds of complexities to keep simple people baffled and in fear, condemnation, and hostility. And those are the things that trick people into staying in captivity. Well, I'm only angry because you're doing this, and therefore you have a problem, and I just want to fix you because there's something wrong with you. It's like, well, if I'm the one that's in hostility or fear, who needs the fixing? Who needs the repair work? And again, his invitation is so simple. Trust, love, simplicity, and truth. Now, if you have a complex mind with all kinds of hostilities and rages and fears, that's not even possible. But if you will take that tool of forgiveness and systematically use it on a daily basis, you will dismantle all hostility and fear. And you will come to the point, Isaiah says, removing national hatred, overcoming sorrow and death. Guess what, folks? We're now celebrating Memorial Day. Isaiah was celebrating Memorial Day 2,000 years ago. He's saying, here's what to do, folks. Here's how to do it. This is what's going to put an end to war. And so if you really want to honor those folks that have been forced to murdered, been maimed, injured, traumatized, brought those traumas home, traumatized their children, their wives, their parents, their husband. If you want to help clean that up, do your work today. Get on the website, www.whyagain.com. On the right-hand side, there's a link that says Download Worksheets. Click the first 3 links. Start to do those worksheets. It's an awesome tool. And Jeanie tells me that we have a caller on the line, so come on in.
Area 619, you are on the air.
Hello, 619. Give us a name and where are you calling from? We can't hear you, 619, if you're there. Well, maybe they can hang up and call back again. We've got no, no voice contact with.
Michael, we couldn't hear Jeanie either.
Couldn't hear you, Jeanie. Nope.
No, we're just picking up Jeanie through Michael's phone.
Right. 619, you're on the air. How about giving us a name and tell us where you're calling from? Area code 619, are you there? No? Okay, well, maybe try calling in one more time. It just seems to be cutting out. And so let's go back to this because Isaiah just says this so powerfully and so beautifully. So he's talking about cause law, as Yeshua was talking about cause law, and the first law Yeshua spoke of was maintain a human life, love, when you think of God, neighbor, and self. Isaiah is saying the connection between a peaceful world that is the removal of national hatred, the overcoming of sorrow and of death, comes from the simple truth, the simple return to trust and love, simplicity and truth. So this guy knew cause and effect and how they were connected. And, when you look at the power of that promise that Isaiah lays out, for the simple, though not easy, abandonment of fear or hostility, for the delight of living in love, it's awesome. Yet, men tend to be in such deep captivity to the terrors and the fears and the violences that have been put into them, that though they want to get something better, they hold on to this deep, deep non-truth that produces that hostility and fear. And that holds a deeper sway in them. And again, this is captivity, a deeper sway than truth and love does. Which, that almost boggles your mind. What is the game? So the work it takes to return to being has been admired by many. They watched someone who did it, and they went, let's worship that one because they did it. And now that we watch them having done it, then we can just hook up to them and they'll take care of it for us. It doesn't work. And so the idea is, rather than admiring someone who's done the work, if you go back to Yeshua, he says it this way, take up your cross. Notice he doesn't say, take up my cross. He says, you. What's your cross? Your cross is whatever is in your generations that holds you in captivity. Whatever hostility or fear, whatever reason you can come up with, and your physiology tricks you into thinking, well, this is worth disconnecting from love for because this is a really important issue. This person doesn't agree with me. This person isn't doing what I want them to do, and I'm only angry because they made me angry. Well, that's a whole denial system. Are you ready to trust, love, simplicity, and truth? And when you do, you'll return to being. You will become one of those who's opened the energy gate for that to happen. Instead of seeing an enemy that deserves our internalized violence, and when we're in the state of denial, when we pretend we're not responsible, we'll always find somebody who deserves our projected violence. And of course, the real question of energetic beings is not, do they deserve what I want to serve up? Because people do crazy things, and maybe they do deserve it. But the question is, do you deserve it? Because you get the original and they get the carbon copy. Now, Jeanie assures us that we have some callers on the line. Let's give it a try.
We actually have 3 callers, so if all of you will hang in there. The first one is area code 423. You are on the air.
Thank you, ma'am.
Oh, hi, Deborah.
Hello.
Hey there, young lady.
Hi, how are you?
I am blessed and highly favored. It's a delight to hear your voice.
Okay.
You sound like you're in a pretty chipper space today.
I am. I said the other day that it was the first time that I had listened, but it wouldn't be the last one. And now I look forward to 2 o'clock just so that I can hear. And
awesome.
You're talking about Memorial Day. And I have a lot of memories, a lot of them, but I come from a very strong, loving, blessed family. But I also have I'm breathing.
Good. All right. Nice catch, young lady.
I've been doing a lot of that lately.
Okay. So now we're getting calls from heavy breathers on the show.
Well, I don't mean to
but
breathe
it's a different kind of heavy breathing, and we're glad you're connecting with your breath because that is the breath of God in you.
Just letting it go. You got to let it go.
That's the key.
I am allowed to grieve. I'm allowed to grieve. So
absolutely. When we have loss.
When I have a loving loss, I am allowed to grieve. I'm entitled to that.
You have our support. No question about it. And we hold a space in our hearts of support for you and for the fact of your mom's sudden passing recently, and for her that, that her journey as she leaves her body and moves forward, that she goes straight to the love of God, straight to the arms of love, into that light, fully, completely blessed and held there, safe and secure.
Oh, I know
and
where she is.
that light reflects back to you and supports you in being able to go through that grieving process and let loose of that pain so that you can also hold her in the light. We had a woman at Heartland several years ago who had a son who was killed in a truck wreck. And she lived about 2,000 miles away. He was a long-distance truck driver. And she went out to where the wreck happened, and she found his T-shirt. And she took that T-shirt and she clung to it like it was life itself for about 10 years. And she was at Heartland, and she was doing exactly what you're doing right now. She was doing some breath work. And her son visited her and said, "Mom, please let go of that shirt and let go of me. You're holding me back. Please let go of me. I've got to go on." And we don't oftentimes understand that if we hold pain about someone leaving, that pain can be something that holds them back. And that's why we're here to support everybody on the planet, literally trusting, as Isaiah said, that truth, simplicity, and love, living in that love 24/7, 365, whatever happens, because that's our birthright, to have a human life and to be that space of the awesome presence of love within our physiology is just such a gift that's given to us.
I know that I am not holding my mama back. I know where she is. And I just feel her on my shoulder every day saying, "Would you get up, put your, excuse me, this may not be correct, but put your big girl panties on and deal with it, take care of you and your household." That's the way she was.
That sounds like Tennessee, Virginia kind of thing. Jeanie and I met 6 years ago and got married, and that I lived in Tennessee. We lived there the first couple of years so that Ryan could complete school, and it was funny. One day I walked into a place to get the oil in my car changed. And I stepped up to the counter and I said, "I need an oil change." And I was like, "Oh my God, I've been in Tennessee too long. I need an oil change." But as Jeanie said, nobody noticed it but me, because I was in Tennessee. Well, that's a cute way of saying my big girl panties on. Very good, Deborah. Well, we're looking forward to seeing you in, we're going to be there in about, what? Is it that long? Is it 2 weeks? Not that long, is it?
No, it's not that long. No, it's not that long.
We're going to be in Tennessee next Tuesday. So we're less than a week away. So we'll get to lay eyes on you and say hello and hug you, and we'll look forward to it.
Can I say one more thing? One more thing? Jeanie will understand this. I'm moving, but I'm still going to be in Tennessee. But I am moving, and I went to the farm that I am moving to yesterday. That's why I sound so chipper. I tended my garden. I've got beans and peas and corn and potatoes.
Awesome.
And, just...
Is that out your dad's farm?
No.
But you're going to be at the reunion, right?
No, I'm in Tennessee.
Right, but are you going to be at the reunion next week, the July 4th?
It is. Oh, yeah, but I don't know that I'll be able to camp, but I know that I do have enough family that all I have to show up with is a pillow and a sleeping bag, and I'll be welcome anywhere.
All right, well, we'll look forward to seeing you then. Blessings. We've got another caller. Let's see who's coming in now. Jeanie, who are we talking to?
Area code 541, you're on the air.
This is Julia.
Well, hello there, young lady. How are you?
Well, I just called in because Julie said, well, you can listen to them on the air and hear what they say to people.
You can.
There was a question that I was going to ask, and I didn't get a chance to, but what there has been, I don't want to say put on me, but some, I'm not really prepared for this. I was hoping you wouldn't call me.
Okay. Well, Julia, if you want, we're going to see you tonight. For those who wouldn't know Julia has been with us. She's a new friend that we've met here in Ashland, Oregon, and she's actually been driving back and forth to the workshops just about every day. We've been having fun. And so if you want to save that question till tonight, that's cool. If you're not really prepared to ask it, we can chat about it tonight on the way to the workshop.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just need to think it through. I'm just not prepared.
Okay. All right. Well,
can I call back in and maybe get in line in a minute? What?
You could do that, sure. You could jot down some notes so you'll be keyed into it. You could certainly call back, or we can chat about it tonight.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we got a lot of other things to cover tonight. Okay.
Okay. All right. Blessings.
Area code 619. You're on the
You can't video. Lost you.
Area code 619, you're on the air.
Hello, 619. Are we going to get to talk to you this time? Hello.
Hi, Michael. It's Bev in San Diego.
Well, hey there, young lady. How are you?
I'm really good. Thank you so much for your wonderful show.
Awesome. We're having fun.
Yes, we are.
We're so blessed to get to do this.
Well, thank you very much. So my question that has come up listening to you today is my strategy has been there's somebody really, really significant in my life, and they are the only relationship that I have so much pain with. And
You mean they're giving you opportunities to learn forgiveness? Deb, that's awesome.
They are. But
that's
my
fabulous.
strategy has become that I don't need any more opportunities to learn forgiveness, and so the best strategy is just to avoid them, although I really love them. So therein lies the conundrum.
Okay, well, do you want some support on seeing if you can undo that conundrum?
Yes.
Cool. All right. So my offering would be that we're using the word I love them. One of the things we understand when we hold a newborn child is that the newborn child is love. So love isn't something we do to somebody. It's something that we are. So I'd offer you don't love them. You are loving their space, perhaps, or if they can resonate something different in you, what you call your pain, then you lose the capacity to hold to the state of being that you are love in response to their behavior. But I'd offer that the pain that you're experiencing there, the response that comes up, is not caused by them. It's caused by the content of your own physiology. That's what we're talking about with the dissociated mind. And so, and certainly, if there's more drama and trauma in the situation that we want to handle in ourselves at a given point, we certainly have the full right to say, I think I'm going to call time or quits on this relationship. I'm going to move on from it. But that simply means that as I walk away, I'm going to be calling out on an energetic level with what I hold unresolved as pain in my tissue structure. One, I'm going to be causing degeneration of my tissue structure wherever that pain resides, because pain is a signal there's something in me that doesn't belong there. One of my favorite tongue-in-cheek questions is always, if they're the one with the problem, why are you the one with the pain?
Right.
They're not the one with the problem. Now, they may have a problem, but strictly speaking, while you're in pain, their problem is none of your business. Your problem. You're trying to take the speck out of their eye while you have this beam in your own. And again, you have every right to walk away, but what I suggest is if you're going to walk away, that you make sure you continue doing that forgiveness worksheet process around that pain to empty it out of your tissue structure so that your tissue structure can recover and so that you don't have to pull somebody else in to do it to you again. Because, anybody who never learns to take responsibility for what they're feeling and come back into direct relationship with that dissociated part of themselves gets to live the title of my book. Why is this happening to me again?
It sounds so simple, and it just seems...
It is so simple.
I can't...
It's a bummer it's so simple. But it's not necessarily easy. It's not necessarily easy. While it's simple, it's not easy. Because we've got 1,000 generations that believe somebody else was causing our pain. The only thing that can take you out of your true nature, love, is the pain that's in your own tissue structure. And this person is giving you the gift of showing you that pain. If you haven't done the reality management forgiveness process that we're talking about, I suggest going to the website, getting the worksheet, starting to put the pen to the paper, and see what you discover about yourself. You're going to discover some awesome things, and you're going to do some awesome healing if you do that. And you can go back into exactly the same situation where yesterday there was all this horrendous pain, and today you'll go, well, where's that pain gone? Now, this person may still be doing their crazies, and I may still say, this isn't the right place for me. I choose to move on, but I'm not moving on out of my pain and resistance. I'm moving on out of a state of connected love and being and intelligence and choice. There's a difference between the two. And another strategy you can use is that there's an old saying that absence makes the heart grow fonder. Mm-hmm. And actually, absence doesn't make the heart grow fonder. What it does is absence changes the resonant frequencies of pain that we experience in ourselves as a result of someone resonating that in us. So when we are absent, we disappear from them. The pain that they resonate in us quiets down.
Right.
And then we have this longing. Oh, I really, that dear friend, I really wanted, we've gone around Robin so many times, and I have so much anger come up when I'm around them and so much grief. But, I haven't seen them a long time. I'll go hug them, and I go up and I hug them, and, people say familiarity breeds contempt. No, familiarity doesn't breed contempt. But when I get back in someone's space who gives me the gift of showing me the part of me I haven't dealt with, they know exactly how to give me the look to bring up that dissociated, hidden part of my mind that I think isn't mine. Then when I get back in their space, up it comes again. And I go, now I remember why I got out of this relationship. I'm out of here. And people tend to wax and wane. But if you're conscious about that, you can choose to create some space. I'm going to take a little space here. And as I take a little space, I'm going to do some work. And I'll come back. And there'll be less of the drama and trauma because I've done my work. But I promise you, you can't feel anybody else's pain. Your feelings your own. And it's an invitation to forgive that pain in yourself. I promise you, take that worksheet, www.whyagain.com. Right-hand side, click on the link, download worksheets. And questions about it, call us back and share your questions. We'd be happy to support you in the process. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And I've been doing worksheets for 5 years, so I love the worksheets. They do work, and this one particular relationship that's a very close family member is my total challenge.
Your big opportunity. So, yes, she would say to you, okay, this is your 77 times 70 worksheet issue. We're actually down to about 45 seconds, so we're going to need to leave. If we've got more to chat about, please call us tomorrow. I realize there is another caller. Call us back tomorrow. We'd be delighted to start the show with you.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're out of your eternal life. Okay, bye-bye. By the way, we'd love to go and spend some time next year, not this year, but the next winter. We're going to plan the tour of the West Coast, so invite us to San Diego.
I will.
Okay. Blessings. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you for listening to MindShifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife, Jeanie, who present the internal Aramaic process of forgiveness. Michael and Jeanie are here every Monday through Friday from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Earth Angels Radio. For more on Michael and Jeanie, please visit www.whyagain.com. whyagain.com. That's www.whyagain.com.